Hello. Am I unmuted? I am in the wrong spot again. Right now, we are just waiting for Vivi.
Hello.
Oh, there you are. I'll put you like right here on my head. Everyone, welcome Vivi, our special guest for today.
Hello.
So today, I'm going to tell Vivi about the Dalia Dippolito case. This will be like a test true crime stream because I don't know entirely how well it's gonna go. So I chose a case that's kind of lighthearted, that doesn't involve any deaths. You know, like more on the lighter side of true crime, you know. Okay, well, I guess it's story time, Vana, today while I tell you about this case. A couple of things. There are like a couple of videos. I don't want to like show you guys like the whole court recording or anything, but there's a videos of like leading up to the arrest and the interrogation and stuff. There we go. So this is the article about the Dolly W case. This is some of the videos I'm gonna share, like the plan, the alibi. I spoiled a little bit. The fake crime scene confrontation interrogation. There's this site with like the whole court recording. We're not gonna watch all this, like hours long, obviously.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Thank you for the follow. Um, this is this video is how I learned about the Dolly Dipiglio case from Bose versus the World. She's also another true crime tuber, or YouTuber. I watch her all the time. She's one of my favorite uh, YouTubers. And then this is I told you about this one, the JCS Jim Can't Swim video. I can also share it with you on Discord if you want to watch it later. We're not gonna watch it here. I'll only show you the article and like one like some clips of here in this video. Vivi, share this with you. Hello,
Is this
SS
the
Chevy. Yeah.
hello? Is this the one channel that had the JFK crime case on it? I think I saw a channel like that, but I don't know if this is the same
I don't think
guy
it's
who like
I don't think it's the same one. I'm not entirely sure.
okay.
Thank you for the follow, Gringos Hollows. I appreciate it very much. Okay, so the article. This article, I'm gonna like sum it up, but I won't tell you like the major details. Dalia met a guy named Mike, right? And Mike met Dalia, and Mike immediately fell in love with Dalia. You know, like love at first sight for him. Not so much for her. We'll get into that later. So like,
Wait, what?
we'll get into it. They like Mike shot his shot with her, and they got married, right? Dahlia, at some point in the marriage, I think it was only like we'll see. We'll probably share an article. I like skimmed through it, but it has like most of the details of the case. But they were married for like only a couple months, not even a year. And Dahlia said, "I'm done with this marriage." And you want to know how she wanted to be done with this marriage? She wanted to kill her husband and take his money.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no. It she decided she wanted out of the marriage, and instead of just simply getting a divorce, she decided to kill her husband. And she's tried multiple different, or like get her husband arrested, or try to get his money. She tried multiple different things. She's tried calling anonymously to the police to try to get him arrested, because Mike had a previous uh arrests, like previous arrests, like he was convicted for like fraud before. So she tried to like call anonymously to try to get him arrested and try to say, oh, he's still uh, committing fraud and so, you know. But that didn't work. So her next big idea was to call up her ex-boyfriend. Her I don't try to remember his name. I'm sorry. We'll go through the article. She called her ex-boyfriend, and she tried to hire her ex-boyfriend to hire him as a hitman to kill her husband. Ex-boyfriend obviously was like, hell no. And he like completely refused. But ex-boyfriend, the good boy he is, decided to go to the police and tell them, hey, this girl tried to hire me to kill her husband. And when they did that, like when he told the police that Dahlia was plotting to kill her husband, the police and him, like worked together to try to, get recordings of Dahlia and try to trap her and try to get her to confess about uh about the hitman plot. So they went to like one of the police officers, uh or sorry, the ex-boyfriend went back to Dolly and said, hey, I won't do it, but I know a guy who will do it. So she directed him to the guy who was an undercover police officer, and they had like a whole recording, a whole recording of her completely confessing to the guy, uh, like her plot of wanting to kill her husband.
I
Wait,
think I've seen
you,
her face before
you
in the
guys
news,
can't
but
hear.
I don't. Is this
Sorry.
the There was a clip. There was what was it?
Mm,
It was a young lady like talking to someone and
mm-hmm.
like they recorded it. Is that the same one
Yeah,
from recent time?
yeah.
Or was
You're
that old? I don't know.
you're probably talking about this one.
Oh, okay, okay.
I pick her up Wednesday morning. He gets two in the head. That's it. I take a couple things with me.
Like the guy she's talking to right now is an undercover police
It's all over.
officer.
I'm gone out of there.
Oh,
I'm a lot tougher than what I look. I know you see me, you're like, oh, what a cute little girl, whatever. But I'm not.
You are. You're extremely beautiful.
Thank you, but
he
I'm
just
not.
looks like a narcissist. Like when you look at someone and you're like, you just look like a narcissist.
Yeah. She definitely is a narcissist. Like during the whole trial, she just kept denying that she was even trying to plot to kill her husband when they literally have the recording right here. Like they showed her the recording during her interrogation. They showed her the recording during the trial many times. Like they have to keep playing the video to like prove that she was actually trying to do it. But the whole time she just kept denying. Like I didn't do that. Nope, you got the wrong person. I wasn't trying to kill my husband. Like she was trying to play innocent the whole time, even though the evidence is right in her face.
Mhm.
He won't be able to like. I mean, he walks fine and everything like that, but I mean, it's gonna be like a little bit of a struggle.
Between now and when it's done, you're not gonna have an option to change your mind. Even if you change your mind, you're not talking to him.
There's no changing. No, there's no like.
Yeah, like, but he just said here, like, this is something that we can't change. Like, if you want to change your mind, you better change your mind now. And she's like, no, I don't want to change my mind. I want to do this. It's like 100% something I want to do, incriminating herself right then and there. Like the intent to want to kill her husband.
Like, I'm determined already. I'm positive, like 5,000% sure.
I'm positive, like 5,000% sure. Her exact words.
All right, what nothing.
Wow.
And then
Like, I'll go to.
her alibi that she was planning to, like, she like had the whole thing planned out, like she had, I'm gonna leave the house at this time to go to the gym. That's gonna be my alibi. You are gonna go to my house while I'm gone at the gym, make it seem like a break-in, like break in, try like a thief, and then shoot my husband dead. And then the police, and then she actually did go to the gym or whatever to like really try to set her alibi, and then she only went back after the police called her when they went to her house.
Go to Boca or I'll go somewhere else.
So she was really like planning this out.
Right. I'll go get my hair done or something, or I'll be somewhere, but I need to go out of town. I never go
The
anywhere.
screen at the
Right
back of
away,
the
I'm
seat.
like, oh, what if you're sick? You never go anywhere in the day.
That's so 2000.
So, okay, after he kills him, whatever, your mom and all of them are not gonna, like, his mom is not gonna get suspicious of you or anything like
Why
that?
me? Like, do you know what?
Didn't you say that?
Yeah, but
He just said, no, like no one's gonna be suspicious of you or anything. Like his mom, their friends or anything. Like no one's gonna be trying to tie it back to you. Then she said, why are they gonna? Why would they tie it back to me? I'm so innocent. I'm just a sweet innocent wife. They're not gonna suspect me.
Killing somebody, come on. I mean, that's, you know, nobody's gonna be able
She's
to point a
basically
finger
playing
at
like the pretty card,
you.
right? Like I'm a pretty innocent girl. They're not gonna suspect me.
I'm gonna tell him about the guy at Target that we ran into, the weird guy that lives in our neighborhood too, that's on probation for something.
She's not lying though. That used to happen a lot.
Yeah. And then while she was like the undercover cop, right? He took the recording and everything back to the police, obviously. Before they called her, they like went to her husband, Mike. And like they went to the house. Mike was still at the house at the time. They went to the house, they like knocked on the door, they said, "Hey, your wife tried to, you know, hire a hitman to assassinate you." So they had Mike leave the house and they set up like a whole fake crime scene. Like they set up fake blood, they set up like police tape, they had cars outside. They like set the whole thing up to make it look like a real crime scene. Then they called her back.
Miss Dippolito? I'm Sergeant Ramsey. I'm the one that called you. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry to call you. Listen, we had a report of a disturbance at your house, and there were shots fired. Is your husband Michael? Okay, I'm sorry to tell you, man. He's been killed. He's been killed.
You see how she's trying to fake cry? Even
Yeah, that's the
though,
clip I saw.
yeah, like she tried to fake cry and try to make it seem like, oh, she's so all heartbroken and everything. The police know, by the way. They know. She doesn't know that they know.
He's been killed, man.
Like in hindsight, when you know the context, this is so silly. But she tried to kill her husband, you know.
A fake cry, like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
He was like, oh, oh, like, girl, you couldn't. I don't think she even shed a tear. Like there are a couple of different angles of this. Like she wailed, but there were no tears. You know.
You don't know anybody who want to kill your husband. You wouldn't want to kill him, I hope. Not at all. The game's over with. Okay? There's no more games with you and I. Now we're gonna get...
Yeah, he knows. Like I think at some point during the interrogation or like the questioning, they show her the recording of her confessing to the fake police officer.
Get down to serious business.
And she still denies it.
Come here.
Like
So
like when
she's delusional? Like what?
No, she's like trying to play innocent. Like even up like the guy, like when he opened the door, he's showing like the guy that she met to try, like the guy that she thought was the hitman that she hired. Like the guy walking through the door, she sees him. She's still in denial. Like she's still trying to say, I don't know him. Even though there's a recording.
Get over here. Get over here.
Like they showed her the recording, they showed her the guy, they showed her they showed her the ex-husband or the ex-boyfriend that she tried to hire for the hit already, like once already. Like they showed her everybody that was involved, and the whole time she was like, "No, I didn't do anything."
You've never seen him before?
I've never seen him before.
That's an undercover police officer. We filmed everything that you did, recorded everything that you did. You're going to jail for solicitation of first-degree murder on your husband.
I didn't do anything.
I didn't do anything, she says.
Please, I didn't do anything.
They have the recording, Dalia.
You're going to jail today.
The fact that she says I didn't do anything instead of it wasn't me is very suspicious. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Oh, thank you for the sub, Homeless Despot. I appreciate it.
With a subscription from Homeless Despot.
no,
Trust
because
in the
like I've
cosmic
seen a
support.
lot of
Embrace the
undercover
community.
cases like
Welcome
this,
to the
and
Cosmic Family
usually
Souls.
if someone really
Let
didn't
the
do it, they'll be
positive
like,
vibes flow
I don't
as
even
we
know what you're
journey
talking
together.
about. Like I've never heard of this. I didn't get involved with it in any way. Like I'm just here. You just brought me here. That's not as suspicious as I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Because
I
then
didn't
it's
do
like,
anything.
what did you do? You know,
Mhm.
like suspicious to me. But
I think for her, when she's saying I didn't do anything, she's saying I didn't kill my husband, not I didn't plot to try to kill my husband. That's what she's trying to say.
that's right.
It's the wording, you know. It really is the wording.
He doesn't want to see you.
I so wanted to see him.
He doesn't want to see you.
Oh my god.
He's alive.
And then in this moment, her husband walks in. Like, she sees that he's still alive, and she's still trying to play innocent.
Please, come here. Mike, come here. Come here, please, come here.
Can't fix this.
Why not? I didn't do anything to you. Mike, come here.
I didn't do
please.
anything to you, she says. Like, I didn't try to kill you.
Mm.
I didn't try to point the gun at you and shoot you. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything to you.
Come here.
When you really did try to do something. You tried to hire somebody to kill him. That's what you did.
Definitely not our second day.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing investigation, all right? Not only do we have your videotape, we have every conversation that you had leading to this point.
I didn't exchange money with anyone.
That's a lie, by the way. She gave him money before this. That is just a straight lie.
Wow.
She gave the undercover police officer the money for the hit. I think she gave half, and then she was gonna give the other half after the hit was done. So she just straight lied right there.
Money then,
Wow.
right?
I didn't exchange money with anyone.
Okay. Why did you want Michael killed?
I never said I wanted him killed.
Yes, you did. It's on tape.
I never said I wanted him killed.
So you did.
I didn't say.
Roll back the tape. I'm 5,000% sure I want him killed. Like, what? They have the recording, Dalia. I don't understand.
I wanted him killed.
And at one point, you say, I want him dead, and I'm 500%.
5,000%.
5,000.
Yeah.
I said I wanted.
Hmm.
Do you want us to play it for you?
Please.
The fact that she's crossing her arms, that's like a self-soothing behavior. It's such a disgusting thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just replay it, please? You guys are treating me like a criminal, and I'm not.
You guys are treating me like a
I'm not,
criminal.
I'm not that kind of person. I'm just not.
I'm not that kind of
Why did you
person.
meet with this black guy?
You're nice to me, but it's like you're both already with your minds made up.
Oh, mine's made up because of all the evidence.
I didn't do anything. I didn't plot anything.
Delusional.
Yeah, very much delusional.
Yeah, she's wearing blue in that interrogation video.
Mhm.
Blue collar crime. Ironically. So.
Yeah, blue collar crime.
Mhm.
So this is like Dalia's background. She was born in 1982. 2 siblings. Where is it? Yeah, Mike was an ex-convict. So, like how I said in the beginning, before she tried to hire a hitman, she tried to get him rearrested for his previous crimes. He was on probation for stock fraud. That's what it was.
She-
Oh, she tried to poison him too. I completely forgot about that. On another morning, after Dalia handed him a Starbucks drink, Mike fell so ill that he was laid out for days.
Oh, wow.
I completely forgot she tried to poison him too. There was no evidence found in the poisoning, so she wasn't convicted for any of that. Dalia Dippolito had been planning her husband's murder for weeks. She approached an ex-boyfriend named Muhammad to source a hitman job. She initially tried to hire him, like the boyfriend. Then the boyfriend went back to her and said, "Hey, I'm not gonna do it, but I know a guy who will do it for you." And this is after he tipped off the police, and the ex and the undercover cop came in to meet with her. It was, unbeknownst to Dalia. Dalia did not know at all up until the interrogation. Yeah, she gave him $7,000 and agreed to be at her local gym in the morning of that morning. And she was going to give him, like, the other half. I think so like 4,000 total. She gave him half up front. She was gonna give him the other 7,000 after. Thank you for the raid, me. I really appreciate it.
Poggies for the raid from Ptolemy VT with 2 viewers. Trust the cosmic connections. Embrace the influx of souls. Let the cosmic energy flow with excitement and joy.
The morning of the murder, quote unquote murder, it was a setup crime scene. Dalia Dippolito went to the gym at 6. While she was away, the police set up a fake crime scene at her and Mike's beige townhouse. When she returned, there were several police cars parked in the front. The house had been cordoned off with yellow tape. I can't read, I'm sorry. And a forensic photographer was documenting evidence. She sobbed into a police officer's arms when he told her the news that Mike Dippolito was dead. Obviously not dead, you know.
Yeah.
It began as she might have expected. So after they told her she was dead, they took her to the police station, because obviously when the husband is dead, you first look at the spouse and close family members, right? But in this case, since they already had the recording of her wanting and plotting, they already knew it was her. Now, we just saw the recording. She was denying the whole thing despite being presented with all the evidence. The recording, her ex-boyfriend walking in the interrogation room, the undercover cop she met and gave $7,000 to, her husband, now ex-husband. He's married. He's like divorced her and remarried. He's happy now.
Well, that's a happy ending then.
The ex-boyfriend, the husband, Mike, he like remarried. He's in a happy relationship now. Surprisingly, the ex-boyfriend, like the guy that she tried to hire initially, he suddenly passed away while her case was still going. So it's kind of like, was she involved in any way, or like was this just like a coincidence, you know? We still don't really know that part. Dalia's first call from jail was to her husband. She not only denied trying to kill him, but criticized him for not getting her a lawyer. Mike demanded the title of his property back in return for comforting her. And I can't read. She tried to guilt trip him. Obviously, she tried to get him on her side, even though he saw everything. She criticized him for not getting a lawyer. Mike demanded the title of his property back in return for comforting her distraught parents. Dalia was released on a $25,000 bail the next day. Her trial loomed ahead. It began on spring 2011. Prosecutors argued Dippolito wanted her. Prosecutors argued Dalia wanted her husband dead and control his assets. Like, she just wanted all of his money. I don't know why exactly. Like, something clicked in her head. Like, I don't want to be married to this guy anymore, but I want his money. I know what I'll do. I'll try to get him arrested. I'll try to poison him. I'll try to hire a hitman to kill him. I don't care what happens. I just want his money. Like, that's her thought process, you know? Dalia claimed she was... What? Dalia claimed she was aware of being filmed by an undercover officer. But then why'd you confess everything if you didn't know? Like, if you knew you were being recorded, why would you say everything anyway? And that her husband, who was so desperate to become a reality TV star, who convinced her to concoct a murder for hire video. So basically, the defense, like Dalia's defense team, was trying to say Mike was trying to get on reality TV. So he planned this whole thing to try to get on a reality TV show or something. It's a really stupid defense. Like, no one's gonna believe that. Come on. Like it was a stunt that Michael Dippolito, whether he'll admit it or not, hoped to capture the attention of someone in reality TV, said defense attorney Michael Salnick. Michael Dippolito's hoax to achieve fame and fortune was a bad prank. His exact words, her defense attorney. She was found guilty. She was sentenced to 16 years, though, and she appealed like twice. She appealed in 2014, and then there was a retrial in 2016. And then people tell me you're lucky to be alive, Michael said at the sentencing hearing, and I'm like, I guess, but I still had to go through all this. It's not even real. It's like I can't even believe we're still sitting here like this girl didn't even try to do this. Despite the overwhelming evidence, the retrial ended in a 3-3 hung jury. Dalia was released on house arrest and gave birth to a son before her final trial in 2017. While Circuit Judge Glenn Kelly agreed with the defense that having cops film the arrest was egregious, he sentenced Dalia Dippolito to 16 years in prison on July 21st, 2017. Her appeal to the Florida Supreme Court in 2019 was rejected. With no more appeals to file, Dalia Dippolito will stay at the Lawwell Correctional Institution in Ocala, Florida until 2032. Wow. Like the whole time. Like this whole time. Even probably now while she's still in prison, she's still denying she ever did anything, you know? And she's probably still trying to file appeal cases because she's firm in that belief that she's innocent and she didn't do anything.
With that, we'll go to opening statements. Ms. Parker.
And then this is the opening statements.
I know what you're thinking. What a cute little girl. But I'm not. I'm a lot tougher than I look. That's what the defendant, Dalia Dippolito, said to the undercover officer from the Boynton Beach Police Department on August 3rd of 2009. She meets undercover agent Woody Jean because she wants to kill her husband, Mike Dippolito. He asks her, "Are you sure you want to kill him?" Without hesitation, as if she had ice running through her veins, she says, "There's no changing. I'm determined already. I'm positive, I'm 5,000% sure. When I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it." And then she laughed. She laughed when Agent Woody Jean asked her, "So, is this someone you're married to?" She laughed because she'd been married for exactly 6 months.
6 months. 6 months into her marriage, and she already wanted to kill her husband and take his money. Like, what kind of entitlement is that? I can't even fathom that amount of entitlement.
That's insane.
That is crazy.
She laughed because she was good at manipulating her husband, Mike Dippolito, and he had no idea of what she had planned. She laughed because she thought she could fool him, and she thought she could fool everyone else, and that she could get away with having him murdered. But she didn't know that the man that she had met with on August 3rd of 2009 in a red Sebring convertible in the parking lot of a CVS in Boynton Beach, Florida, was actually an officer named Woody Jean. She didn't know about Mohammed Shihada, her friend.
This lady speaking is really passionate. This is probably one of the best opening statements I've ever heard of like all the police recordings or court recordings I've ever seen. She's really good at like setting the story and showing how serious and ridiculous this whole thing is, and showing that Dalia clearly should be in jail. Like, she did it, you know?
Yeah. Her lover that had actually gone to the police. She didn't know that he had a conscience. She thought that he was helping her plan her husband's murder. But Mohammed Shihada didn't want to see Mike Dippolito get killed. He didn't know Mike Dippolito, and he'd had a physical relationship with Dalia Dippolito for years, the defendant. But he went to the police because he knew that she was serious.
That was crazy. Cause like, what could have happened if the ex-boyfriend didn't go to the police, right? Dalia would have gone to someone else who would have actually seriously went to assassinate Mike. So it's like, so what's the word? Mike is really lucky that some random guy that didn't know him was looking out for him, you know?
July 31st of 2009, Mohammed contacts the Boynton Beach Police Department.
I'm not familiar with U.S. law, but is this a jury audience? Yes, the jury's here. The jury isn't shown in U.S. Court recordings for, like, you know, privacy. Also, Mike is somewhere in, like, the back audience. So Mike, the husband, he's here. He's also a witness. He, like, went to the stand as a witness, too.
He comes down to give a statement, and what the officers heard on that day was extremely unusual. He told him the story about how the defendant wanted to have her husband killed, and he asked to remain anonymous. He didn't want her to know that he had come to the police, but he wanted to stop a murder. So what the police did is they had Mr. Shihada set up a meeting with the defendant at a mobile gas station at the corner of Gateway and I-95. And that's a place that they had met before on several occasions.
She had like she had a whole map of the city here.
What you will see
That's
is that this mobile...
That's awesome. She has like a diagram.
Yeah, she literally had like poster boards showing everything to like really lay out step by step everything that she planned out and everything that happened.
Gas station here at Gateway and I-95 is less than 1.6 miles from the house the defendant shared with her husband.
So yeah, she didn't even try to go super far away. She like less than or a little less than 2 miles away from the house. Like, what? You could have gone to a different state or something, you know?
It's a half a mile from where she met with Witty Jean, the undercover agent. She plotted the murder of her husband within less than 2 miles from her house.
Less than 2 miles from her house.
This feels like a big waste
She meets
of time.
Muhammad at the mobile gas station.
I know, it's such a huge waste of time. It's like a waste of energy. Of everybody involved. Of Dalia really wasted her time here because she got caught. She wasted the police's time. She's wasting everybody's time in this courtroom.
On August 1st of 2009, Mohammed tells her to bring a down payment so that he can pay the hitman at the request of the police department. There's a video camera in the car. Mohammed doesn't know he's being taped with a video camera. He does know he's being audio recorded. He doesn't know that he does know the detectives are listening in, but he doesn't know that everything that happens between him and the defendant that day was recorded. She hands him $1,200 in cash that day and 2 photographs. One of her husband, Mike Dippolito, and the second one of the house that they lived in. And she tells Mohammed, after handing over these photographs, to wipe her prints off the photographs. And why does she do that?
Can you even do that? Can you just wipe the prints? Yeah.
No, you can't. It's obstructing justice.
That's stupid. First of all. Dalia.
That because she...
I am baffled at the stupidity of this woman. I'm sorry. She's stupid. Like, what?
She doesn't want to get caught. As she's sitting there in the car with Mohammed, she plans out her alibi. She doesn't want her actions to seem suspicious And Muhammad asks
Just
her
don't do it in the
question.
You don't want your actions to be suspicious, so don't do it in the first place, you know? Like, you can still stop.
Yeah.
So after they kill him, your mom and his mom, are they not going to get suspicious of you or anything? And she says, why me? Do you know what killing somebody is? Nobody is going to get to point the finger at me. I'm going to tell them about the guys he knows.
Nobody's gonna point the finger at me, but in reality, she pointed the finger at herself with the recording, you know?
I'm gonna throw all their names in. I'm gonna start naming a whole bunch of stuff. And guess what? When she was questioned by the police after her arrest on August 5th of 2009, that's exactly what she did.
Blamed everybody.
During the trial, you're gonna get to hear several calls between the defendant and Mohammed. You're gonna hear their conversation. You're gonna hear about their plan and when the hit.
She tried to pin it on like past people that Mike knew when he was convicted of fraud. Like she tried to pin it on all those people that Mike knew in his criminal past. She tried to pin it on anybody she knew, like just to get the heat off of her, you know.
Hitman, when Mohammed tells her the hitman will call her, where to meet the hitman. All of those conversations are recorded. You're also gonna hear several calls between Agent Woody John, posing as a hitman, on the phone. The first conversation on August 3rd of 2009 at 2:47 p.m. He tells the defendant, I need $3,000 and a key to your house. And he tells her where to meet him. You will see a video of the defendant in the car with Agent Woody John. You will see how she acted, and you will hear exactly what she said on that day. And you'll see that she is caught in the act of being herself on tape. Agent John tells her exactly how Mike Dippolito will die. He says he's gonna get 2 to the head, and that's it. He says he's gonna make it look like a robbery that went bad. He tells her when it's all done, then I get paid. She agrees, and she says, I just need to make sure that everything is taken care of. She agreed to pay him $7,000 when it was done. They talk about the $1,200 that she'd already paid him. She even tries to convince the undercover agent that he should rob her husband, who's gonna be at a bank in Boca Raton that morning, and he's gonna have $10,000 on him. She says that would be ideal because it would make it look like there's some reason to kill him.
Also, probably so she can get the $10,000 from the hitman after the hit, you know, to get as much money from Mike as possible.
They talk about her going to the gym the morning that her husband's gonna get murdered. And the agent says, who she thinks is an undercover hitman, the time you get back from the gym, you're gonna find 2 things. His dead body in the house, or nothing. She says, all right. And then what does she do on Wednesday morning, August 5th of 2009?
That was also kind of like a hint from him. Like you're gonna either find a dead body or nothing. The nothing is the whole crime scene, you know. It's okay, baby. So he was really trying to hint to her, hey, you're already caught. I mean, come on.
She leaves her
like
house.
Very subtly.
And she drives to the gym, just like they planned. And you know what she took with her to the gym that day? She took with her an $1,800 Prada purse filled with all the expensive jewelry that Mike Dippolito had given her.
Why would you bring that to a gym in the first place? Like, the gym is like the last place you want to bring a super expensive purse and a bunch of jewelry, you know?
During the course of their marriage. Her over $20,000 engagement ring, all of her David Yurman jewelry, her expensive watch. And she leaves that in the car and she goes inside to work out at the LA Fitness, which is 7/10 of a mile from the house where she lived with Mike Dippolito. And you're gonna hear that there are signs all over that LA Fitness, in the parking lot, in the locker rooms, that say, do not leave valuables in the car. Mike Dippolito's gonna tell you that they knew of several burglaries, car burglaries.
So the hitman does not rob anything. She didn't even trust the hitman she hired. That's true. That is true, yeah. Dumb lady could have divorced him and got rich. The thing was, Mike didn't want to divorce him. Or Mike didn't want to divorce her. So she wanted to go the quote-unquote easy way out. Like, she tried to get him arrested. She tried to poison him. She tried to hire a hitman to kill him. She didn't want to go through the whole divorce procedure. She just wanted to get his money the fast way possible, you know?
That had happened. Why did she go to the gym and take all her jewelry? Because she was worried that she would get robbed when they came in to kill her husband. Now, when she goes...
You were worried that you were gonna get... You told him, the quote-unquote hitman, to rob the husband anyway. So... Why? I don't... The logic isn't logicking, you know?
To the gym that morning, the Boynton Beach Police Department, they got creative. And what they decided to do was they decided to stage a crime scene. They staged a crime scene to show her that her husband had been killed. To further show her intent was to have him murdered. They wanted to see what her reaction would be to the horrific news of a newlywed's husband being murdered, being shot 2 times in the head, just like the hitman said. So what happens on that morning of August 5th of 2009? Sergeant Frank Ramsey from the Boynton Beach Police Department, he calls the defendant on her cell phone when she's at the gym working out. He leaves a message and he says he needs to get a call right back from her. She calls him back and he tells her she needs to come home right away, that there's been an incident. And as she drives up to her home at 1329 Via de Pepe in Boynton Beach, Florida, she sees crime scene tape. She sees the streets blocked off. She sees a crime scene van and officers all around.
Fake crime scene, by the way. The police know it's fake. Mike knows it's fake because they told Mike, I said it already, they told Mike about the plot that she tried to pull. And he was already gone, so she wouldn't see him still alive. This whole thing is fake. Everybody knows this is fake. The undercover police officer that was a hit that went as a hitman knew it was fake. The ex-boyfriend knew it was fake. The police knew it was fake. Probably the neighbors, they knew it was fake. Like, they probably told the neighbors, like, hey, we're gonna set up something here. Don't worry about it. Just stay in your homes. Everybody, literally everybody knew it was fake except Dalia.
The door to her house is wide open with crime scene tape and fingerprint dust all over the door because they wanted to make it look like a true and actual crime scene. She immediately walks up to Sergeant Ramsey. In a consoling manner, he tells her, I'm sorry, your husband's been killed. Before he can even finish the word killed, she's crying hysterically. She's sobbing. And he asks,
Reacted a bit too early, Dalia. Reacted a bit too early. Gotta work on your acting chops, you know. You don't pre-react. You gotta react after.
Does your husband have any enemies? Her response is he's on probation. In all of her sobbing, you will hear there were no tears. You will see her reaction when she's questioned by detectives of the Boynton Beach Police Department. You will see her reaction when they show her undercover agent Woody John. And they tell her, guess what? He works for the Boynton Beach Police Department.
It was a lie.
You will see her reaction when they tell her her husband's alive.
It was all fake.
And they show him to her. Ladies and gentlemen, they say love is blind. In this case, love was blind, deaf, and dumb.
Yep.
You're
Tell
gonna
her. Tell her.
Tell her. Tell her off, Queen.
Mike Dippolito.
Blind, deaf, and dumb.
I'll be clapping, but you can't do that.
No, you can't. I would be kicked out.
Mike Dippolito, right here. The defendant's husband, who she was trying to have killed. You're gonna meet Mohammed Shihada, and you're gonna meet Michael Stanley. And you're gonna meet the defendant.
So, Dalia, obviously.
Her face, I can't.
So this is the husband that she tried to kill. This is the ex-boyfriend. This is the undercover cop. Then Dalia.
You're gonna meet Mohammed Shihada, and you're gonna meet Michael Stanley. And you're gonna meet the defendant the way she was back on August of 2009.
I mean, she looks guilty here. I'm sorry. Dalia, you could have looked a little bit more innocent. She's got to work on her acting, you know.
Mike Dippolito is gonna tell you he had no idea that his new bride was trying to have him killed. She told him she loved him. They thought they were happy, or he thought they were happy, and he showered her with gifts. You're gonna hear that Mike Dippolito is a convicted felon. He's currently on probation. Then in 2002, he had a severe drug problem. He stole a total of $191,000 from several victims. You're gonna hear that he pled guilty. He cooperated with police. He served 2 years in prison and was on probation for 28 years. And his probation requires that he make equal monthly payments towards his restitution.
Mike was trying to, you know, get clean. Like, he was trying to better his life. He got married to, like, try to, you know, make things right for himself, get a clean life, to not be a criminal anymore. He was still paying off the victims at this point. Like, even, and still, like, all the money that he was giving to, like, the city and the victims, he was still showering Dalia with gifts and money and everything she ever wanted, but she still wanted more, you know? Like, can you fathom that entitlement? He was already giving you so much despite everything he was already doing. How could you want more than that?
What you're gonna hear is a story about how Mike Dippolito was trying to pay back the entire restitution amount, the $191,000. He hired a lawyer to help him get off probation early. And you're gonna meet that lawyer. He's gonna come in here and he's gonna tell you about representing Mike Dippolito. He's gonna tell you that there was no guarantee that if Mike Dippolito paid off the entire amount of restitution, that his probation would end early. Mike Dippolito will tell you that his wife offered to help him pay that restitution amount. She said that she would put $91,000 of her own money and combine it with $100,000 of Mike Dippolito's money so that he could get off probation, so that they could travel, so that they could have a normal life as a married couple.
Lying right to him, too.
And you're gonna hear that Mike Dippolito gave her the $100,000.
She took advantage of this poor man, you know. I don't know if she chose him intentionally because of all the money he had already, but she, like, completely manipulated him. She did love him. She didn't marry him out of love. She married him out of money.
Dollars that they agreed upon between February and the beginning of March of 2009. But you're also gonna hear that there was no transfer of the $191,000 to Mike Dippolito's lawyer, Michael Enton. And then you're gonna hear a series of events, starting back in March 16th of 2009. Days after Mike Dippolito gave the last of the $100,000 to his wife.
Got the timeline too.
And you're gonna see this timeline. March 16th of 2009.
Are you streaming? Okay.
Sorry, it was my dad.
The defendant, actually on March 15th of 2009, the defendant suggests a romantic night away with her husband at the Ritz-Carlton in Manalapan. She makes the plans. She even pays for their night. And as they leave the next morning, the valet is bringing Mike Dippolito's gray Tahoe around to the front of the hotel. And as they walk out, the Manalapan police stop Mike Dippolito. And they tell him, hey, we got an anonymous call.
Oh, yeah. Remember I said that she tried to call in anonymously to try to get him arrested for his previous fraud crimes? That's what she's trying to describe now. Like one of the anonymous calls that Dalia put. Like they were at a hotel, the police stopped him because they got an anonymous tip about him.
Call that came in saying that you're selling drugs out of your car, that you're dealing drugs out of your car.
She also planted drugs too. Like they stopped him because they got a tip about him selling drugs in his car. She planted drugs in his car so he could get arrested.
To search the car. He lets them. They don't find any drugs that day. The next day, Mike Dippolito's getting gas in his car, and he opens the gas tank. He takes off the gas cap, and he finds a plastic bag full of cocaine and Xanax. Mike Dippolito is going to tell you how scared he is to go back to prison, how scared he was back then that his probation could get violated, and that he believed he could go to prison for the entire remaining amount of time that he had left on his probation. What you're going to hear is that on the next day, March 17th of 2009, the defendant goes to her friend, Mohammed Shihada, that we talked about, and she asks Mohammed to help her. She tells him she's in trouble, that her husband's abusive to her.
Oh yeah, she did lie to him. She tried to lie to her ex-boyfriend Mohammed and say her husband's abusive. I want to get away from my relationship. Can you kill my husband? She tried to lie to him too.
She needs to get him arrested. So he engages an officer from the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department, Officer Robert Wilson. And he puts the defendant in touch with Officer Wilson, starting back on March 17th of 2009. And the defendant calls Officer Wilson and she asks him if she can pay him to arrest her husband. If she can pay him to arrest her husband for dealing drugs. She assures Officer Wilson that if she's in the car with her husband and they drive into Palm Beach Gardens, that he will find drugs in the car. She also tells Officer Wilson that she had already tried to have the victim, Mike Dippolito, arrested for selling drugs, but the other police department never found the drugs in his car. Does that sound?
Probably because you put them in a stupid place like the gas tank. Like, would they even search there normally? I don't think so.
I'm vaguely familiar. Officer Wilson then tells her he's not going to assist her. He's not paid for doing things like that. She tells him she had wanted to have his probation violated, her husband's probation violated, and that she wanted him arrested. Now she was determined, because remember, when she says she's going to do something, she's going to do it. Now, a little more than a week after Officer Wilson tells her that he wanted nothing to do with setting up her husband, she goes to City Place one night with her husband, Mike Dippolito. Spur of the moment, trip to City Place. Nobody else knows about it but her and Mike.
They do search there if they think the whole vehicle is used to transport drugs or something of the sort. Well, apparently they didn't search there at the time because Mike found it like the next day. She said when he was trying to get gas. So apparently they didn't search there when they initially stopped them.
They have a nice dinner, and that was on March 29th. Of 2009. Now what happens there is as they're walking out of dinner into the City Place parking garage, officers from the West Palm Beach Police Department have encircled Mike Dippolito's gray Tahoe. There's canine drug dogs out there, and they tell him, guess what? You know how it's gonna go. We got an anonymous call. Somebody's saying that you're selling drugs out of your car. In fact, there's a kilo of cocaine. Can we search your car? Mike Dippolito says, sure. He signs a consent to search. He's really upset. And Officer Hooper from the West Palm Beach Police Department is gonna come in and tell you he was terrified. He thought he might go back to prison. He even had tears in his eyes. What happens is they find a cigarette box with a small amount of cocaine underneath the spare tire. The officers decide they're not going to arrest him. They base that on their knowledge, their training, their experience, and they think that he didn't know that the drugs were there.
That is kind of lucky of him that they didn't end up arresting him, even though they found like the little small cigarette box full of cocaine. That is kind of lucky of him. Plus, he willingly let them search the car. He willingly signed the consent warrant. Like, he was for sure that there was no drugs in his car. The benefits of being white. Even though he already had a previous arrest for dealing in drugs and fraud, because of his demeanor and how he acted and everything and how willing he was to let them search and everything, they just let him go because they really thought he didn't know or someone planted it.
You're also going to hear about the restitution money. One of the things you're going to hear about the $100,000 restitution money that was given to the defendant is that on March 18th of 2009, the day after the defendant spoke to Officer Wilson for the first time, the defendant purchases a Range Rover from Mohammed Shihada. A used Range Rover. She pays $38,000, writes a cashier, has a check drawn from her bank account. Mm-hmm. She buys Mohammed Shihada a Range Rover with her husband's restitution money.
That's his restitution money.
What's interesting is that Mike Dippolito bought a house on January 28th of 2009. It's the house, 1329 Via de Pepe, that he was supposed to be murdered in. He bought the house days before he married the defendant. He married her on February 2nd of 2009. And not too long after they got married, on February 20th of 2009, he changes the title to the house so that it can be in both of their names because they're now married. And that was at the defendant's suggestion.
Because she wanted the house.
At the time of the City Place incident, the money to pay off his restitution still has not made it to Mike Dippolito's lawyer's account. The defendant keeps giving him excuses about where it is. She tells him she wired it through the Cayman Islands. She even shows him a receipt. But you're gonna hear she never wired the money. You're gonna look at her bank records. You're gonna hear testimony from someone from Bank of America who's gonna tell you she never had $91,000 in her account at any time. She spent much of the $100,000 that he gave her on other things besides that Range Rover. The Range Rover that she bought for the guy who actually turns her into the police.
In less than
the guy who she has a.
In less than 6 months, you already spent $100,000 on what? what things could you possibly have spent it on that you drained through all that money so fast?
Physical relationship with, even though she's married. She fails to violate Mike Dippolito's probation, although she's trying. So what she does is she enlists the help of her friend, Carrie Brown, and her friend's husband, Eric Tall. And on March 31st of 2009, Eric Tall gives the defendant a cashier's check for $191,000, made payable to his attorney, Michael Enton. And you'll get to see that cashier's check. You'll get to hear that it really exists. And you're gonna hear a story about what happened with that check. And you will learn that Mike Dippolito's restitution still has never been paid, and that he is now out a total of $240,000 because of the defendant. Now, around this time, Mike Dippolito is upset about his restitution. He wants to be off probation, and you betcha he talks to the defendant about it all the time. He asks her where his money is. He accuses her even of stealing his money, and he accuses her of trying to set him up. But love is blind. And on May 1st of 2009, the defendant gets creative. She tries to create a distraction for Mike Dippolito. She tries to convince him that she's not behind the stealing of his money, and that she's not behind trying to set him up and have his probation violated. She tells him that she got a call from someone claiming to be a detective from the Boynton Beach Police Department on May 1st of 2009. And you're gonna hear that call really wasn't from the Boynton Beach Police Department, but someone who spoofed a call. And a spoof call is basically a way of masking a number on the caller ID to make it seem as if the call is coming from a different number. You're actually gonna hear from the inventor of the spoof call. He's gonna come in, he's gonna tell you how it works, and he's gonna show you records. And you're gonna see the phone records where the spoof call came from a friend of the defendant's and not actually from the Boynton Beach Police Department.
Yeah, her friends involved in this too.
You're gonna hear how Mike Dippolito thought that that really was a call that came from the Boynton Beach Police Department. He thought it so much that he and the defendant went down to the police department to inquire if there really was a Detective Hurley that worked there. And they learned there was no such person. You're also gonna hear about an incident with a note that was left on Mike Dippolito's car on May 27th of 2009, when he and the defendant were working out at the LA Fitness in Boynton Beach. After they worked out, they went to the car, and there was a note left telling Mike Dippolito to bring $40,000, and a person will tell him everything he needs to know about his wife, with a phone number, a 305 phone number.
She tried so many times to get his money.
Police officer comes and he takes a statement from the both of them, and you will hear that Mike Dippolito is so shaken up about this incident, so concerned with these incidents that have happened and with his probation being violated, that he can't even write out a statement. Guess who writes it for him?
Dalia.
The defendant. And after the police leave on that day, you're gonna see from the phone records that the defendant actually calls the number on the note, and she has a phone conversation with this mystery person.
That's good.
Then she calls the police, and she tells them that the person
I don't think they were illegal back then.
And also Mike Dippolito.
Like during 2009 or something.
And what you're going to hear from Officer Gilbert from the Boynton Beach Police Department is that the defendant never once tells the officer that she's the one who called the number. Now, these two incidents are to make Mike Dippolito think that she is not the one trying to harm him by taking his money or have him arrested. In July, he's still asking about his restitution. He still wants to get off probation. And he keeps getting excuse after excuse and promise after promise from the defendant about getting his money back, about helping getting him off probation.
He loved her so much. He kept letting her off after she kept giving him excuse after excuse about where his money is. He had so much love and faith in her. It's kind of sad. I feel bad for him.
The defendant gets desperate. She thinks that Mike Dippolito might be getting wise as to what she has done. So what she does is she reaches out for her ex-boyfriend, Michael Stanley. Now, she lived with Mike Stanley in California prior to...
Wait, that's an ex? I thought that was the undercover cop. Oh, okay.
Meeting the defendant and moving in with him. Now, once she gets back in contact with Michael Stanley, she immediately begins telling him how much she loves him, how much she misses him, how much she wants to be with him, this newlywed of 6 months. She convinces Mike Stanley to come visit her in West Palm Beach. And he stays at the Marriott right on Okeechobee Boulevard, not once, but 2 times in the month of July of 2009. The second time,
What a tramp.
9 days before her husband.
Like, you already have Michael over here who's already giving you so much love and money, but you're still going to 2 different ex-boyfriends?
What is her end goal? Like, she has so much money with her husband that cares about her, but she still wants more money.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Buy more purses? Like, what?
There's only so much makeup in the world, Dalia. I don't know.
Right.
Is to be murdered. From the text messages that you're going to hear and you're going to be able to read, you're going to see that this was a very steamy affair. The defendant used sex as a tool to manipulate Mike Stanley into doing whatever she wants. And what she wanted was to have her husband locked up, his probation violated, have him sent away to prison. So she directs Mike Stanley over the course of about 15 days in ways to hurt her husband. She gives him her husband's bank account numbers. She tells him to call the Department of Treasury, the IRS, the Inspector General's office, and the Department of Corrections probation officer to try to have his money frozen, his accounts frozen, and his probation violated. Mike Stanley calls the probation officer and says, guess what? Mike Dippolito's selling drugs. He's selling steroids. They plot via text message what is the best way to have his probation violated.
She's like super dedicated. Is that the word that for her?
Yeah,
Like she
devoted.
just keeps, devoted. Like she just keeps trying after she keeps failing to get him arrested or to poison him or whatever. You're that stubborn for his money? Just divorce him. You get half the money probably. At most, maybe, right?
The defendant suggests, why don't we plant drugs in Mike Dippolito's car?
Again, like for the 3rd
Heard that
time.
one before? She suggests they plant Xanax and cocaine. And wouldn't you know, those are the same drugs found in Mike Dippolito's gas tank on March 16th of 2009 at the Ritz-Carlton in Manalapan, or right after then. Mike Stanley and the defendant talk about setting Mike Dippolito up for dealing steroids. They talk about how happy they will be once he's jammed up. And Mike Stanley tells her she needs to take care of her mess so that they can be together. The defendant has such control over Mike Stanley, just like she does over Mike Dippolito, because love is blind, deaf, and dumb.
And dumb.
He doesn't even see that she's using him. Next, she devises a plan to try to get Mike Dippolito to sign the house over to her. She wants that house, the house at 1329 Via de Pepe, 3-story townhouse. So she has Mike Stanley pretend to be a lawyer. He spoofs a call to Mike Dippolito and it comes from a 305 number, and it comes back to the courthouse in Miami. And Michael Stanley gives Mike Dippolito legal advice when he talks to him on the phone. He tells him that he'll help him get off probation. And Mike Dippolito thinks his wife has done a wonderful thing. She's found him a lawyer that can help him. Mike Dippolito believed this was a real lawyer, and he followed his advice.
Oh, poor Mike.
And one of the things that this lawyer, that was Michael Stanley, pretending to be someone named Richard, told him was to write a letter to the judge. Write a letter to the judge who's handling your case and ask him if you can be on administrative probation. And what you need to do is you need to take that letter, that handwritten letter that you write to the judge, down to the courthouse in Miami. And I'll meet you. I'll get that letter from you. So Mike Dippolito writes out that letter, and he and the defendant get in his car and they drive down to Miami to the steps of the courthouse. But the lawyer, Richard, who's really Mike Stanley, is too busy to meet with them. So he sends his paralegal, Sergio, to meet with Mike Dippolito and take the letter. And what you're gonna hear is that Sergio is actually a friend of the defendant's mother, Randa Mohammed, and that she asked Sergio to do a favor for her, to meet her daughter down at the courthouse and just take a piece of paper from her. Sergio's gonna tell you, he's gonna come.
Was the mom in on this too? I don't think she knew the like extent of how many times she's been trying, but Dalia was like, I just want to get out of this relationship. Can we like trick my husband to like do this thing? Can you do that for me, Mom? Can you tell this guy to go get something from my husband for me, please? I don't know the extent of how involved her mom or other people on her side of her life are in, but it seems like she's been lying to the people in her life and like painting her husband in like a bad light and to try to get him to hate him so she can get out of this relationship, you know?
Come in here and he's gonna testify. He didn't know what it was about, but that he met the victim. He took this piece of paper, and guess where it was? On the courthouse steps in Miami. Now, Mike Dippolito was also told by the fake lawyer, Richard, that because he owed so much restitution, that he shouldn't have any assets in his name. So what do you think he does? He transfers the title of his house
to Dalia
over to his wife. And after Mike Dippolito agrees to sign the house over to his wife, the defendant sends a text message to Mike Stanley. She says, "We've accomplished one huge goal this week, and that is the house. I just need you to help figure out the rest for next week." And that's July 31st of 2009. And what happens the next week? The next week is when her husband is supposed to be murdered. And just after the title is transferred over on July 31st of 2009, because Mike Dippolito actually follows through and he goes to Independence Title down there in Del Rey, and you're gonna hear from Todd Serber, who actually did the paperwork and transferred the title. And right after that title is transferred, the defendant sends another text message to Michael Stanley on July 31st of 2009. She says, "Did the transfer, but he said, because we are married, I can't sell it without a signature, even though it's in my name."
'Cause you're married,
And later that
Dalia.
afternoon, the defendant meets with Mohammed Shihada and tells him she's serious about wanting her husband killed. She even tries to steal Mohammed's gun and says she could do it herself. You're also gonna see calls on the defendant's phone.
That's kind of strange. You were willing to do it yourself. Why didn't you do that 6 months ago, or 4 months ago, or 3 months ago when you've already been trying to get him arrested? Like, she wanted Actually, she wasn't even gonna plan on doing it herself. She wanted to get everyone else's hands dirty but herself.
To someone named Larry Coe from Riviera Beach. And Mohammed's gonna tell you that Larry and the guys that he hung out with in 2009 were a dangerous crowd, and that the defendant has spoken to them prior about killing her husband. Mohammed thinks she's serious, which is why he goes to the police. And you're also gonna hear a call after the defendant's arrested. It's a call she makes from jail to her mom. And she says to her mom, I heard Mike's in my house. That's my house. The title's in my name. This is after she's been arrested for trying to have her husband killed.
It was previously in his name. It actually, at first, it was solely in his name. Then after you two got married, it became like a asset of the marriage, right? So it became in yours and his name. The only reason he put it solely in your name was because of the fake lawyer that you tried to hire. But it's still technically a marriage asset. So it's still technically both of your house. It's not just yours, even though it's just in your name, you know? That's an example of someone who won't stop until they win. So many criminals do this sort of thing and get away with it.
The crime of solicitation to commit first-degree murder with a firearm. The state has to prove that the defendant solicited Whitty Jean, or John, people are going to say
okay,
it's different, to commit first-degree murder with a firearm. During the solicitation, the defendant commanded, encouraged, hired, or requested Whitty John to engage in specific conduct which should constitute the commission of first-degree murder with a firearm or an attempt to commit first-degree murder with a firearm. First-degree murder is premeditated murder, consciously deciding prior to killing somebody for the killing to take place. After you hear all of the evidence, listen to the tapes, after you watch the videos, after you read the text messages, the state will have proven to you the defendant committed this crime beyond a reasonable doubt. You will see how determined she was to have Mike Dippolito, her husband, killed.
There's no question of how much she wanted him dead.
When she says she's gonna do something, she's gonna
do it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Parker. And,
Thank you,
while
Ms.
Mr.
Parker.
Sellers, setting up on-
That was such a beautiful opening statement. One of the best. I love seeing that opening statement. The defendant's opening statement, on the other hand, is probably the worst I've ever seen. It's like a really bad opening statement from the defense.
Worse than the Amber Heard case.
Yeah.
That one was bad too.
Yeah, that one was terrible. Awful. Like this one and then the Amber Heard one's probably two of the worst opening statements I've ever heard in my life. It said before in the article that the defense's opening statement was, and like they tried to pin it, they tried to say that Mike wanted to get on reality TV. And that's what they say here. I'm probably going to get too pissed off. We probably won't even be able to finish the video because I'll get so mad at how terrible this is.
Gentlemen. We live in a world where the media has proven time and time again that...
Okay, first of all, that's a bad start. Why are we talking about the media in an attempted murder case, right? Like, what? What does that have to do with anything right now? This is already a bad start. We're not even, like, 20 seconds in.
That it is used by people from all walks of life as a means to an end. We live in a world where the line between the reality of TV and people's real lives get blurred. We live in a world where people seeking their 15 minutes of fame lose all sense of judgment and common sense. The power that people give to the media, no matter who these people are, can have an impact on how they live their lives. And in this case, the evidence will show that people tried to use the media to hopefully gain exposure and that brief moment of fame that they can turn into opportunity and money. The evidence will show that Mike Dippolito enjoyed watching reality TV.
What does that have to do with anything, sir?
Mike will tell you that he watches Jersey Shore, that he finds it amazing that people make money doing this, but he thinks it's cool.
What are we gonna bring what's her face from Jersey Shore in as a witness? Like what? Why'd you bring up Jersey Shore out of nowhere? I don't understand. Points for creativity, I guess, Sabu Joe, but I'm just getting pissed off. Like, you're just wasting my time now.
He was a fan of the show Cheaters. Now, that's the show where one person in a relationship suspects the other of infidelity, and the show basically investigates the suspicion. The show plants a hidden camera and stalks the suspected partner until there's enough footage for the confrontation episode. The cameras roll, and they roll to catch the emotion and the drama that springs from the confrontation. Michael claims to have actually purchased for his wife Dalia a boxed set of all the episodes of Cheaters. It also came with a tank top with the logo of the show on it for her to wear. Now, the evidence will show that for many, reality TV shows depict.
Again, what does that have to do with anything? They probably both just enjoyed the show and he wanted to give a gift to his wife. What? Are you gonna bring in the box set and the T-shirt as evidence for what?
Pick the worst of our society. They're superficial, they're artificial, and they're filled with attention-getting, hokey drama. For others, reality TV has become a way to launch a center stage career.
Mike is somewhere back there in the audience, you know, so Mike is hearing the utter bullshit that this defense prosecutor is spouting about him right now. And it's insane. He's hearing this whole case, and he has to sit there in silence up until he's called up as a witness. So he has to sit here in silence as this prosecutor is basically shitting on his name.
Reality TV has evolved from letting real life play out in front of the camera to a meticulously produced television program packaged to hold a viewer's attention. The evidence will show that reality TV is not as real as it's portrayed to the public. Producers sometimes engineer situations to activate the desired reactions from the actors, who are often carefully chosen at casting calls. Sometimes people just act as they're going through what they believe to be a reality TV moment. Producers pore over footage, splicing it together to create the most attention-grabbing entertainment episodes. Almost anybody can go to a website and read about how to make a reality TV show. The trick is to come up with a unique idea that would be picked up by a real producer and a real production team. The evidence will show that when Dalia Dippolito was younger, she was actually an extra on a reality TV show. It was called...
Wait! Why? For what reason? Why are we bringing this up? What does this have to do with the case?
Jamie Kennedy's Experiment. And ironically, the episode in which she was an extra involved a fake hit on someone. The
So
evidence will show that
she's
reality...
ready. Like, she's more ready because of that.
Right, like she got the idea from when she was an extra on this random TV show. of putting a hit out on her husband. Like she was watching all the footage of her being extras in random shows and stuff. Like, oh, I remember this plot. You know what I'll do? I'll go plan a hit on my husband. That's a great idea.
Reality TV often glorifies what we call bad behavior that appeals to the gullibility of people. The evidence will show that the plot for the contract killing of Mike Dippolito was never real. It was a stunt. It was a hoax, a ruse, a plan that Mike Dippolito, whether he'll admit it or not, hoped to capture the attention of someone in reality TV. And while he'll never tell you this, the evidence will show you that his motives were very clear. The evidence will also show you that as it so happened, one of the original and possibly the oldest reality TV show on television is also involved in this case. The TV show Cops was coincidentally in South Florida to ride with the Boynton Beach Police Department during the week that Miss Dippolito was arrested. Now, Mike Dippolito had to come up with an idea that was dramatically unique, that had an interesting, attractive couple, which he hoped would hold the viewing public's attention.
I'm sorry. Can we go back for a second? I'm still trying to... What did he say before?
Department during the week that Miss Dippolito was arrested. That as it so happened, someone in reality TV, and while he'll never tell you this, the evidence will show you that his motives were very clear.
Oh, it was like a bit before that, I think.
He often glorifies what we call bad behavior that appeals to the gullibility of people.
What's going on? We're watching the worst defense I've ever heard in my entire life right now.
The evidence will show that the plot for the contract killing of Mike Dippolito was never real.
The plot for the contract killing of Mike Dippolito was... Yeah, they set up a fake crime scene, but it's very real that Dalia wanted to put a hit out on her husband. The prosecutor already said that in her opening statement, sir.
It was a stunt. It was a hoax, a ruse, a plan that Mike Dippolito, whether he'll admit it or not, hoped to capture the attention of someone in reality TV. And while he'll never tell you this, the evidence will show you that his motives were very clear.
I don't think Mike would even be able to take this supposed fake reality TV show footage to an actual reality TV because it was set up by the actual police. They need it for evidence. They can't just release that to a random studio, you know?
The evidence will also show you that as it so happened, one of the original and possibly the oldest reality TV show on television is also involved in this case. The TV show Cops was coincidentally in South Florida to ride with the Boynton Beach Police Department during the week that Miss Dippolito was arrested.
Circumstantial evidence, that's a nothing burger. I mean, come on. Mike wouldn't have even been able to know that.
Now, Mike Dippolito had to come up with an idea that was dramatically unique, that had an interesting, attractive couple, which he hoped would hold the viewing public's attention. The newlywed angle was also appealing, and one of the first things done was to create the idea that strange things have been happening. He proceeds to describe his car being searched by the police after a night with his wife at the Ritz-Carlton where they paid for a room that was about $700 for one night. And again, inside the garage at City Place. He tells of a cloak and dagger type note that was left on his windshield demanding $40,000. When you combine that with the liposuction, the orthodontic braces, the expensive clothing, a Porsche, a Corvette, trips to the tanning salon,
Just digging your
lots
own
of
grave.
cash.
Why don't you?
What?
He's literally helping the offense. So he's helping the other side with this. That's crazy.
He doesn't realize he's actually setting up the entire prosecutor's statement. You're helping them. You're not even realizing it.
Cash and a beautiful young wife. We believe that the evidence points to an orchestrated stunt to get Mike Dippolito in front of the cameras. The evidence will show that Mike Dippolito and the Boynton Beach Police Department both wanted to use the media as a means to an end. The Boynton Beach Police Department wanted to enhance community relations by letting citizens know how their police department worked in order to protect the community.
How would a reality TV show been able to do that? I don't understand like the end goal of that motivation, honestly.
The media to increase awareness and communicate information is a good thing. But the evidence in this case will show that the best of intentions, when hit with the white-hot spotlight of the media, get pushed aside. We believe the evidence in this case will show that a 33-year veteran of the Boynton Beach Police Department who supervised this investigation became so focused on cooperating with the production of the show Cops that even his good judgment was set aside. But let's go back to the beginning and let's look at and talk about all the quote players in this story that I call.
This is why you don't get Groupon lawyers. I'm sure this is probably just like a bad case for him. He probably knows Dalia is fucking guilty, but he still has to do his job. You know, he has to get paid somehow. Like I know some defense attorneys or lawyers that have to defend a criminal that's so obviously guilty. They have to do something. Like they just have to make some shit up, or they have to like say something so they get paid by the state or something.
All truth is stranger than fiction. Dalia,
like most of the time they won't leave the case. They'll just stay on the case so they at least get paid.
And Mike Dippolito met not.
At least, well, I have a family member in the justice system, and usually what happens is they get assigned to a case. Like they can't choose their cases, you know? Sometimes, but most times they're like, oh, we have a lawyer that works in that. And they don't even know what case they're going to have beforehand, but they have to come up with something, like, so that they can get paid, like Vana said.
I know it's like lawyers of like the state or like the country, and like not like independent. Like lawyers of the state, they're like given cases whether they want it or not.
Right.
October of 2008. She was living in California with a man named Mike Stanley. You've already heard about Mike Stanley from the prosecution. She was back in Florida for a visit when she met Mr. Dippolito. A very short time later, she returns to Florida and moves in with Mike Dippolito. He was separated from his then wife at the time, but the divorce was not yet final. Now, the evidence will show that January 28th, 2009 was a memorable day for Mike Dippolito. His divorce was finalized. He and Dalia filed for their marriage license, and Mike Dippolito paid $238,000 in cash for a home at a place called Ferenz at the Renaissance Common Development in Boynton Beach. But the evidence will also show you something that the prosecution didn't tell you about. The evidence will show that on that day, Mike Dippolito withdrew $226,922 in cash from his bank and had Dalia purchase a cashier's check in her maiden name which was then paid to Independence Title Company for the mortgage-free home. After Mike's divorce was finalized, he quitclaimed the deed into both of their names. You'll learn that Mike Dippolito lived a very fast and high-end lifestyle. He's very concerned with appearance, both physically and socially. He now drives a Porsche, which he had fitted with very expensive trim and trappings. Just a week before this stunt was to take place, he paid $5,545 for liposuction. He paid his orthodontist cash for his braces. His bank records show that he goes to a tanning salon on a regular basis and belongs to a health club. The records will also show that he has taken out an enormous amount of cash from his bank accounts, notwithstanding him wanting you to believe that he has none, or he's losing it, or it was stolen from him. Now, although Mike Dippolito isn't on trial, he's a prosecution witness in this case. He is a witness that the state is using to prosecute Dalia Dippolito. And as with any witness, your responsibility is to judge the credibility, believability, and if the witness has anything to gain by testifying in a particular way. At the conclusion of the case, you're going to get specific instructions from Judge Colbeth, and he'll tell you what you have to consider when you evaluate a witness's testimony. These rules apply to all witnesses in this case, including Mike Dippolito. Now, the evidence will show that there's another side to Mike Dippolito. He went to prison in May of 2000.
Notice how he said you had to take in like the witness's credibility and likability and believability right before he said Mike had a criminal conviction of fraud. Like, what?
I mean, well, there's cases where sometimes it feels like what happened was justified, but then the opposing team gives a statement and then the witnesses give a statement. It's like, wait a second, like something's off here, you know? So
Yeah.
even though it seems kind of ridiculous and we feel like we know, in this case, we definitely know what happens. But like, there's some cases where it flips on its head, like, oh, wait, maybe they did not do something wrong. But like, in this case, since it's so obvious, this just feels, it feels like he's just adding to what was said earlier, trying to like justify it. But
Yeah. He's really trying to like it's his job, okay? I'm not wholly blaming him. He's just doing his job. It's okay, sir. I know you were probably just pushed onto this case. You probably don't even like Dalia. I don't know. So it's not on him at all. But it's like, I'm really sorry. This is like a bad case he was given.
2003, he was running a foreign currency scam. He called people up on the phone and asked them if they wanted to invest money, and he never invested in anything. Essentially, he was a thief. He got caught, and he pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty to unlicensed telemarketing, communications fraud, and grand theft, all felony crimes. He received 2 years in prison and 28 years probation as it all computes out. He had a special condition to pay about $191,000 to all of the individuals that he victimized. The evidence will show that that number, 191.
You ever get that feeling that whenever you hear someone talking, like it just drags so long, and even though they haven't been talking that long, it's only been 12 minutes, and I'm already so tired. Like, again, nothing against him. He's just doing his job. It's dragging. I'm getting tired. I was a bit irritated earlier.
$1,000 is very significant in this case. Mike Dippolito repeatedly claimed that his desire was to pay off his restitution. But the evidence will show that despite all the talk, he had no intention of paying back that money. Throughout the course of this trial, you'll see evidence, as I mentioned previously, that Mike Dippolito took cash, sometimes in very large amounts, out of his accounts. Oh, and also out of a canvas bag in a safe deposit box, and gave the money to his wife. He'll tell you that when he got out of prison, his first job was as a line cook with the Fridays restaurant chain. Between the time he left prison and the time that he met Dalia Dippolito, he amassed over $500,000. The evidence will show that Mike Dippolito could have paid off that restitution several times over before he ever met Miss Dippolito. And we intend to talk to him about that. And you'll see that as of February 2009, almost $80,000 a month was going out of his account. The evidence will also show that Mike Dippolito gave his wife a series of checks in amounts between $6,000 and $7,000 from February through, I believe, the end of March 2009. Mr. Dippolito would have you believe that he was giving that money to his wife to hold so that he could pay his restitution. It will become clear that Mr. Dippolito uses the excuse of paying back restitution every time it involves himself with some type of money-making scheme. Dalia Dippolito didn't know that the checks he gave her were to be put aside for restitution. She used it to pay for their lavish lifestyle. Mike Dippolito is the person who controlled this relationship. He had all the money.
Hello? Sorry, I had whiplash for a second. Mike wasn't the one in control of the relation. Dalia was clearly controlling him with like her beauty, with the love that he had towards her, sex probably. And she also he was the one giving her money so she could pay the lawyer for his restitution and to pay back the victims of the fraud that he did before. So he was putting a lot of trust into her. That's not having the control in the relationship. That's actively putting her in control of the relationship, you know?
And he exerted the power over his wife. He told her what she should wear and how she should look. He would take her cell phone to check who was calling and who she was calling. Dalia's own mother realized that she had become a different person after she became involved with Mike Dippolito.
I don't believe that.
When they went out, they would run into people occasionally from Mike's past, and Dalia became concerned that he was falling back to his old ways. He'd come up with this story and plan for reality TV, which was absolutely crazy. She thought that this was ridiculous, but that maybe in a way to stop him attempting to violate his probation might put an end to what Mike wanted to do. She was scared, and she didn't know what to do. She was confused, and her thinking was that if his probation were violated, this would all end. Her husband told her not to worry, that when the story played itself out, the police would be notified and everything would be fine.
Also notice how like they're putting Dalia in like this sweet, innocent housewife position. Like she's so innocent. She was so scared of her husband. He was getting involved in all these drug stuff. He had so much power and control over the relationship. When Dalia has a completely different personality when they talk about her in the prosecution. Like, you know, when the prosecutor's talking about her. So it's like two different sides of Dalia. We already know which one's the real Dalia. But she's always putting herself in the victim placement, you know? She's always making herself seem all innocent and cute and And like, oh, I'm just a sweet little housewife, and I'm just a good little girl. I didn't do anything wrong.
Mike Dippolito, however, had other ideas, and the result has been devastating to Dalia Dippolito. He not only controlled her, but he turned on her and acted as if he had no idea as to what was going on. The evidence, however, will show that Mike Dippolito made some critical mistakes which will become evident to you as the case unfolds. Mike Dippolito didn't want to pay the restitution, but he did want his probation status changed, and he shopped for lawyers. But he'll tell you that he always found a way. Well, he won't tell you. You'll see it from the evidence that he always managed to find a way to squelch the relationship with those lawyers before any real progress could be made. One of the lawyers he used is a man by the name of Michael Enton, a very nice guy and a criminal defense lawyer from Broward County.
How many
And
Michaels?
in this instance,
How many Michaels? Yeah, there are 3 Michaels already. we got Mike the husband, we got Mike the ex-boyfriend, then we got Mike the criminal defense attorney.
Yeah.
Mike Enton was going to help Mike Dippolito get off of probation. And at some point, there was actually a check for $191,000 that Michael Dippolito had cobbled together. The restitution could have been paid, and the petition for a change in status could have been done in a matter of hours. This was a simple matter, something very easy for a criminal lawyer to do on behalf of a client. Mr. Enton, in reliance on Mike Dippolito's promises, had actually written the prosecutor in Broward County.
Are there any more Mikes I don't know about?
And had drafted a motion for early termination of probation. But in typical fashion, Mike Dippolito tried to engineer the arrangements, overcomplicate things, and take control. The payment was never received. The rest.
Is there a Mike Wazowski? Is he a witness in this case?
Oh.
Mike Wazowski gonna go up to the witness stand and do his stand-up comedy routine.
He would be a great witness.
Restitution was never paid, and the lawyer became so angry with Mike Dippolito and Dalia Dippolito that he threw them out of his office, saying he never wanted to see them again. Mohammed Shihada. Let's talk about him.
The ex-boyfriend.
I would be sleeping in the courtroom, not gonna lie. Be asleep.
I like just yawned like just a second ago. Like look at the look at the prosecutor. She's already so tired of it.
Yeah.
Like everyone in this courtroom's already so tired of it.
Can everyone see that? Can you see that?
Projector. Oh my gosh, I missed those.
Okay, that's a photograph of Mohammed Shihada. We'll talk about this in a minute. I have another one to show you. That's a photograph of Mohammed Shihada. Years before she met Mike Dippolito, Dalia had a relationship with a man named Mohammed Shihada. Mr. Shihada claims that he made his living running a convenience grocery store.
Damn, that's kind of old school, the projector. Look at this photograph.
And is a part-time gambler. The evidence will show that he's made as much as $3.1 million in a given year, but currently has a petition for bankruptcy pending. He's also appeared on 3 episodes of the TV show Burn Notice and has a number of publicity photos which are up on the internet. At another period of time in his life, he was an actor, or attempted to be an actor, because he claims that his daughter was a model, and as a result of that, he got into acting. And because of his look, his build, his physique, his appearance, he was lucky enough to book 3 episodes on Burn Notice. And this is one of the pictures that come from the talent agency that he was involved with at the time. You saw one picture from the prosecution. I wanted to show you some others. This is another picture. This is another picture of Mr. Shihata with the vest on and his arms, and there's 3 pictures on the side. They're
Sir.
Pictures, publicity.
Sir, you're yapping. Can we get to the point, please? Why are we looking at his mug shots, or not mug shot? What do they call it? Like the actor photos when they go to audition? Yeah, photo ops. Why are we looking at Muhammad's photo ops right now? Like he's auditioning.
Pictures, the type of pictures that an actor might use at one point or so in their lives. Now keep that up there while we talk about Mr. Shihata. Those pictures were on an agency website where he advertised his acting skills. Now, the evidence will show that Dalia Dippolito and Mohammed Shihata lost contact, but they communicate occasionally.
Glamour shots.
They reconnected sometime in 2009, in early 2009.
Photo op
She
just means like a
confided in
professional
Mohammed.
photo.
Yeah.
And she told Mohammed things about their marriage. Dalia Dippolito isn't on trial for having an extramarital affair or allegedly cheating on her husband. The judge will instruct you about things of that nature at the end of the trial. But the evidence will show that Mr. Shihata will be asked about a number of things he claims to have knowledge of. You'll notice inconsistencies in his statements. You will hear him contradict himself. And in some instances, he says he has a photographic memory, and then he'll tell you only what he chooses to remember. He gets dates, times, and places wrong, and then tries to explain it away with excuses. The evidence will show that Mr. Shihata's memory of significant events is not good. And as the court stated before, and as the
I'm trying to discredit him. They discredited him earlier with saying that he has a criminal record. They're discrediting him now, saying he has a bad memory. And
prosecution and I have agreed you will be able to watch Mr. Shihata's direct and cross-examination testimony on video at the appropriate time. Now, the evidence will show that Mr. Shihata has no problem at all taking gifts and taking money from Dalia. And he even suggests in a lewd and crude way that he can have sex with Dalia at the snap of a finger. He also wants you to believe that he's on the fringe of knowing people who would commit crimes and underhanded deeds. But you'll see from his testimony that he always stops short of naming names, giving descriptions, or being certain as to who these people are. He also wants people to believe that he has a connection to law enforcement. He ran the convenience store. The police came in there. The evidence will show that he wants to be everything to everybody. And the evidence will show that he is as much a player and participant in this as is Mike Dippolito. Now, when you listen to Mohammed's testimony, I want you to pay careful attention to a couple of things he claims he said. Although Mohammed says that he never met Mike Dippolito and consistently denies it, he does tell the police in a statement that he knows people who know Mike Dippolito. What does that mean?
A small world?
Now, besides giving Mohammed Shihata money to pay his personal bills, on March 17, 2009, Dalia buys Mohammed a Range Rover. And she pays somewhere between $38,000 and $40,000, cash or cashier's check. A very short time later, Mohammed returns the truck to the dealership and pockets the refund of over $30,000 without ever offering to return the money. Why should I return it? Now, the evidence will show.
Well, probably because she bought him a car and gave it to him as a gift. Therefore, it's now his, so he doesn't have to give her the money. Why would he give her the money of a car that she gave him ownership of and gifted him, you know? I don't get that at all.
That after he got the money, he paid some bills, and then he took a trip to the Mideast with his daughter, and then he comes back sometime in June of 2009. But the evidence will show, most importantly, and I want you to pay careful attention to this, is that the incident with the Range Rover reveals a glaring inconsistency which will become important as you look at the facts of this case and as you understand what really happened. We talked about how the evidence will show that Mohammed Shihada has a selective memory. Mohammed would have you believe that he knew of Dalia Dippolito's desire to have her husband killed in March of...
The guy was trying to construct a narrative in the beginning, but now he's just yapping. He was trying to say, like, Mike was framed or, like, set up this whole thing with the police to try to get on reality TV. I don't know what point he's trying to get with Muhammad right now, honestly. I'm trying to pay attention. I'm trying to hear everything he's saying, but he's losing me every now and then. Again, no shot at him. He's just doing his job.
2009, but he didn't go to the police. In May, he takes this trip to the Middle East with his daughter to visit his family. He returns in early June, and he doesn't go to the Boynton police until July 31st, 2009. It's Mohammed's supposed connection to law enforcement that's the key to setting Mike Dippolito's plan in motion.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks. Oh, brother, Dalia stinks. All the way over there. She knows what she did. Stop trying to play innocent. We all know Dalia.
Mohammed's role, not unlike his role in Burn Notice as an actor. And in Burn Notice, I think he had about 10 lines, so this was a little bit bigger performance. Mohammed's role was to convince the police. Let me close this. No, I won't close it. Mohammed's role was to convince the police that there was a woman who wanted to pay someone to kill her husband. Mr. Shihada has boasted that as an actor he can do certain things, and he proceeded to do that. He contacted someone in the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department who puts him in touch with someone in the Boynton Beach Police Department. He makes a phone call, and when he does, they immediately get him in, take a statement, and sign him up as a confidential informant. What's interesting, though, is when he first goes to the Boynton...
Wait, sorry. They're so bored. This lady's on her phone back here. She's not even paying attention anymore. Oh, gosh.
Beach Police Department to
I
give a
just stopped
statement.
looking at him. Like, I can't even engage. I can't even engage. I'm just looking at the wall. Looking at my phone. Like, oh, it's still going. Okay.
Yeah. But put your AirPods in and listen to some music. 5 minutes in, they're still going, oh, shit.
He says that they talked a while off tape. They started to talk again, then they laughed a little bit, and then they turned on the tape. But he signed up as this confidential informant. And Mr. Shihada wants you to believe that the police told him that he wouldn't have to testify and that he wouldn't have to have anything to do with this case. But from the moment he signed on as an informant, the police use him. They had to make a series of phone calls, most of which are monitored or recorded. They put him in the vehicle, and whether he did or didn't know he was videoed, I'll let you look at his testimony and make that decision. But the Boynton Beach Police Department, when he had this meeting with Dalia Dippolito, planted a microphone in Mohammed's car, and they had him set up this meeting. And the position of the camera is not very good. And I anticipate that as the state goes through the evidence with you, you'll watch that video. But Mr. Shihada isn't seen very often.
Not gonna lie, I clocked out of that monologue quite a few times. I like blanked out a couple times too. Don't worry, it's not just you.
Often in the video, and I don't believe you see Miss Dippolito very much at all. You hear talking. But if you listen carefully to the entire thing, you're...
Lady's still over here checking her Facebook. keep checking your Facebook. Nothing's going on, ma'am.
Gonna hear Mohammed talking with someone else who has nothing to do with the case. The casual conversation with somebody is completely against regulation, but the more interesting piece of evidence reveals that Mohammed doesn't behave at all in this phone conversation with someone like he's the hinge pin to a murder plot. After his conversation is done with Ms. Dippolito, the tape is still on, and either the video or I believe the audio captures Mohammed speaking to someone on his cell phone. And he's heard telling the person on the cell phone, he's wearing a wire, and he's headed to the police station because they're gonna take off his wire. Now, he signed a contract with the Boynton Beach Police Department, and he was sworn not to tell anyone about his role with them. And I'm sure that the Boynton Beach Police will talk to you about that. And when you hear his description of his role, the tone of his voice, and the times he tells whoever he's talking to that he's working with the police and that he's got to take off the wire, it certainly becomes clear from the evidence that he doesn't take what he's doing seriously. But then his job was simply to sell the plan and put the police in motion. The evidence will also show that the Boynton Beach Police Department recruit an undercover police officer based on Mr. Shihada's information to act as a hitman. A meeting is set up between Dalia Dippolito and the so-called hitman at a CVS pharmacy in Boynton Beach. Just
be right back. You're not missing anything, Sabajo. Take as much time as you need.
West of I-95 on Gateway Boulevard. But before this meeting takes place, Ms. Dippolito and Mohammed Shihada meet outside the Chili's restaurant on Congress and Gateway. And they decide to go inside to get something to eat. And the evidence will show that Mohammed is not wearing a wire, and the conversation inside Chili's is neither monitored or recorded in any way. They spend 40 to 45 minutes inside the Chili's. Even one of the sergeants involved in this case didn't think it was a very good idea for Mohammed to meet with Ms. Dippolito without being monitored. And this was certainly the opportunity Mohammed needed so that he could talk about his success in getting the police to take their plot seriously and for him to brief her as to what was going to happen next.
Evidence. Who was a witness to him telling this to Dalia? Only Dalia? That's not a good witness. You need someone other than the two people in that conversation as a witness to this. So you won't even be... He has to stretch it out to fill time and make sure he covers all his bases. He's also like filling in the blanks with like circumstantial evidence or like straight up made up stuff that probably Dalia told him and made up on that spot.
They leave Chili's together and they take one car to the meeting at the CVS. Mr. Dippolito, according to Mr. Shihada, bought some takeout. At first he says, I think she bought the takeout for his dog. Maybe it was for her husband. So she goes to Chili's. They leave Chili's. She buys takeout for her husband, or in Mr. Shihada's words, the dog. So for the dog or for her husband. And then she goes to CVS to supposedly have a meeting with a hitman about her husband, the person she wants to have killed. And you'll see a video of Ms. Dippolito talking to the undercover police officer. Hitman, whatever you want to call him. And I assume the prosecution will play that for you. And the police believe that this is a real plot to commit a murder. Mohammed told Dalia that the police believed his story about a woman who wanted to pay someone to kill her husband. She knows she's talking to a real policeman, and she knows she's not talking to a hitman. The undercover police officer has no idea that they've discussed a fake plot and believes he's getting taped evidence. And she plays her part well. And she continues the ruse and she makes plans with the undercover cop as if it were real. She never wanted, she certainly never planned, and she certainly never intended for anything to happen to her husband. And the evidence will show that this video, which is the so-called centerpiece of the state's evidence, is important for you to look at. And I anticipate you'll hear from the undercover officer as well. Now, at one point during the video, the officer sees Mohammed in the parking lot. Now remember, he believes he's investigating a murder plot, but he sees the informant. That would never happen. Never. He says on the video, "What's he doing?" And the reply that the hitman gets from Miss Dippolito is that he's smoking. I don't let him smoke in the truck. That's hardly a statement that a hardened, cold, calculating person planning a murder is going to make. And then Mohammed approaches the vehicle that they're in, and he knocks on the window. "How's it going?" Did she want something to drink? You know, he's concerned about her when he's with this hitman, and in real life, I don't think the informant's going to identify the undercover police officer, especially when he's talking to the suspect. Now, the undercover police officer will also tell you himself that he didn't think the camera recording them was well hidden. He'll tell you that at a number of points, Miss Dippolito would look around in the direction of the camera. You'll see her looking out the back window many times during her meeting. Now, the officer, I anticipate, will come up with an excuse that she was looking around whenever she saw somebody. But if you look at that video and you watch it, she is clearly looking in the direction of the camera, and she's clearly looking because she knows, as the officer is, that the camera just unfortunately wasn't very well hidden. And in the conversation,
I mean, I guess the camera was kind of like it was hidden, but you could like clearly see Dalia's face clearly in that footage, you know? So it probably wasn't hidden very well, but I doubt Dalia even saw the camera, because if she did, she would have immediately shut up and probably left the car, you know?
between Miss Dippolito and this undercover police officer, you're going to hear him say many things that even the most naive among us would realize is not something you'd hear from a hitman. They think they're investigating something for real, but the things he says are just so evident. He tells her he needs a key to her house and that he doesn't care if there's an alarm system. He tells her that she doesn't have to pay him now. He says, "I don't want the money now." He'll contact her later and get the money on the back end. He tells her that he has to get other people involved. And he says that part of his planning is that he's got to call the police from her neighborhood and report a shooting to see how fast they respond. And he says if he can't do it at the designated time, he'll give her her money back. Dalia plays along. The talk escalates. And he says to her, "Are you sure about this?" Well, she knows what she's doing. He thinks he knows what he's doing. And she says, "Yeah, I'm 5,000% sure."
That doesn't help your case.
Didn't matter at all, because she knew nothing was ever going to happen.
Even if she knew, even in this wild hypothetical that she knew she was being recorded, and she knew that the police and her husband was planning something, and she knew that it was a fake hitman, why would she say that? I don't. I can't.
I told you before that the reality
I'm
show
sorry I
Cops
yelled, BB.
was scheduled to begin riding with the Boynton Beach Police.
The inner frustrations are
According
coming.
to Stephanie Slater, who's the Boynton Beach Police Department's public information person,
How long is this
it was
talk?
33-year veteran
Just get to the
Sergeant
point.
Paul Sheridan, who told her that he thought this case would
to
be
go to the
good for
bathroom and get some
cops.
food.
And that set things in motion.
I
All
got a
she
pizza
needed was her
coming. I
chief's
gotta get to my
approval.
house.
Because of Mohammed's acting job and Dalia playing along with the plot, the police believed, and rightly so, that this whole thing was real. Just the other night, a man barricaded himself in a home in Lake Forest, Illinois, and 100 police officers went to his house and they come to find out that he called from a McDonald's, and he was basically just playing with the police. But in this case, the police knew exactly where Dalia was, and their undercover told her to go to the gym. Now, if this was as real, and if this was what they say it was, after this was done, they could have gone and picked her up at any time. If this was the plot and this was the solicitation, go pick her up. But instead, Sergeant Sheridan decides to set up a fake crime scene and to call Dalia to go to the scene with the cameras rolling. He also made sure that the people from the television show Cops were part of the Boynton Beach police entourage that went to Mike Dippolito's house to tell him what was happening. That's the first time that anyone ever goes to Mike Dippolito to tell him what's happening. If this
Is this what I'm like? You're fine, entity, don't worry. Oh, we're almost done. What is it? I can't. 48 minutes. We're at 37 minutes in. It's almost done. The torture's almost over. We can get through it.
real murder plot was as they say it is. Nobody went to warn him about it. Nobody went to tell him about it. The very first time that they visit with him to say what's going to happen is on the morning of the day that this occurs, with cops in tow. Now, Mr. Sheridan also made sure that there was this scene, this fake crime scene. And Frank Ramsey, who is a Boynton Beach police sergeant, who hugs Miss Dippolito.
There were like times during the defense's opening statement where, you know, like Charlie Brown, and it has like the and it's just like slowly turned into the womps for me. I'm like, ugh. And I just snap back to reality, like, wait, where's he at now?
During the fake crime scene, will tell you that a camera person was present both there and at Mike Dippolito's home from the television show Cops. And a media area was also designated with cameras that were set up. And you'll see the footage. And the evidence will be clear that this video of Dalia's arrest serves no investigative purpose whatsoever. The police are quick to comment that her reaction is inappropriate and that she didn't show enough emotion or that she cried too soon at the news that her husband was shot. Well, the evidence will show that Dalia knew that Mike wasn't harmed, and hers is a fake reaction to a fake event. As Sergeant Ramsey put it, he perceived it as an Academy Award-winning moment of grief. Now, the evidence is clear that the police were cooperating with the show Cops to capture raw footage of the shock they expected when Mike heard the news.
I had enough time to go on VR, talk, and leave during this. Lamel, he's still on Cops. What the hell? Yeah, he has like a special way of rambling, and like rambling in a void, you know? Like, he just keeps talking. Again, this is probably just a case that he probably wanted nothing to do with, but he had to because he needed to get paid this month or something. And I feel bad for the prosecution that has to go through this. I feel bad for the defense that was forced onto this case with Dalia. I feel bad for Mike. I feel bad for Mike Stanley. I feel bad for that other Mike. I feel bad for Muhammad. I feel bad for everybody in this courtroom. The only person I don't feel bad about is Dalia. I feel bad about everyone except for Dalia.
You'll learn that the police participated in what they call cover shots, which is staged footage of the police doing routine things in order to get more information and finish up the filmed product. It's a standard filming technique, and it's used to show something visual while you have a narrator talking. After Miss Dippolito's arrest, the police had a short debriefing session to talk through the events. The show Cops didn't get that meeting on film, so they asked Sergeant Sheridan to repeat it. And a brief scene was staged
At least he's doing his job as a defense attorney. Like, I've seen so many defense opening statements or even prosecutions opening statements where it's been less than like 20 minutes. I think there was a defense opening statement where it was like 15 minutes long. It's like, that's it? That's all you got to say? So at least he's doing his job, right? Like going through everything that they're going to say on their side and laying out all the facts on their side, you know. So at least he's doing his job.
To recreate the meeting for the cameras. And the evidence will show that once the Boynton Beach Police Department started to generate footage for cops, they overlooked pieces of the investigation that might have allowed them to discover what Mike Dippolito was up to and what his scam was. Now you'll see a tape of Sergeant Sheridan and Dalia Dippolito at the Boynton Beach Police Station. And one of the most obvious and glaring breaks with police procedure is the lie that Sergeant Sheridan tells Dalia about being on video. The evidence will show that when the police arrest a suspect and are interrogating them, a waiver is not required to put the questioning session on video. When someone is arrested, they don't have what the law calls an expectation of privacy in a police station. So if you're recorded or if you're videoed, they don't necessarily have to tell you. But what the evidence is going to show is that there's a conversation between Paul Sheridan and Miss Dippolito, where Paul Sheridan says to her that you have to sign this because we're putting you on video. I don't want to be on video. Well, you're going to be on video and you have to sign this. Well, the evidence will show that what he's doing is he's duping her into signing a video release so that her face can be on the TV show Cops. And without that waiver...
Like, all of a sudden, we're back at the point that this whole thing was a setup for Cops. You stopped talking about this like 20 minutes in, and you're just now at the end, at 40 minutes, you're bringing it back?
The editors of the footage would have to insert those wiggly little squares that you sometimes see when someone's face is being blocked out on a television show. Most shows like this require...
Is this guy still yapping? Yeah. Yes, he is up. You spared yourself of the torture. We're almost at the end. We got like 7 minutes left.
Waiver, and there's rules that ensure that the person signing the waiver is doing so, and doing so voluntarily. Sergeant Sheridan will tell you that as a result of what happened, they ripped up that waiver, and the show's producer had to later get another member of his staff to somehow convince Miss Dippolito to sign a waiver after she's arrested and once she's in a police station and once she's told about what occurred. Now, the evidence will show that Sergeant Ramsey believed that the questioning of Miss Dippolito was rushed, that Mr. Sheridan wanted an on-camera confession and was pressing for it. At one point, the evidence shows that Sergeant Sheridan brings the undercover police officer into the interrogation room and asks Dalia if she knows that person. That's as irregular as anything else. Sergeant Ramsey tells us that the suspect is usually asked to identify the undercover policeman through a one-way mirror in a type of lineup. Here again, Sergeant Sheridan is setting...
I feel like I'm fading into the void. We got this, guys. It's almost over. We got 6 minutes left. Don't worry. Hold my hand. We'll get through it together.
...up a dramatic confrontation so that somebody can show it on tape. You'll also see that on the fixed position camera that the police use when they interrogate a suspect, that in the film, that in the lower right-hand corner, there's actually a cameraman from the show Cops who's getting footage of Miss Dippolito. The evidence will show that this is an effort towards sensationalism. And the cameraman is probably hoping for an emotional outburst. That's going to add to the dramatic effect of the whole thing. Then we get to a point where Sergeant Sheridan tells Miss Dippolito that her husband is alive. And what does she say? Thank God. Dalia's of the belief that at this point, Michael Dippolito is going to come in and explain what they are attempting to pull off. It's time to end the scam. Sergeant Sheridan allows Dalia Dippolito to see Mike Dippolito outside the interrogation room. And you'll hear Dalia Dippolito calling Mike asking him to come into the room, speak to her, pleading with him to explain what's been going on. Dalia says through her tears, "I didn't plan this." And later that night, after she's in jail, she calls Mike. And Mike will tell you he took the call because he was curious, because he wanted to hear what she had to say. This is a guy who is supposedly told that his wife was going to kill him. And she calls Mike and she pleads with him to straighten things out. "Come down to the jail. Let's talk about this. Can I see you?" And the evidence will show that he doesn't respond with outrage at the idea of his wife wanting to have him killed. He flatly says, "I don't know how I can help you." The evidence will show that he was also told not to talk to anybody about this. But he appears either once on local TV and then a number of times on national TV and has a nice conversation with Matt Lauer the morning after this thing occurs when he's on the Today Show. And one reporter at some point even questions how calm he is.
Probably because he's still, what's the word? Disassociating. Like he's still in shock at the whole thing. Like his own wife tried to kill him. He's disassociating. He's still trying to process his feelings about all this.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Dippolito's hoax to orchestrate his own murder to achieve fame and fortune was a bad prank. And it was no different than what Balloon Boy's parents did.
Who?
Or the couple that crashed the White House.
Huh?
His reality idea wasn't even an original one. But what was clear from the evidence is that it was never anyone's intention to harm anyone. Everyone had a part to play in this story, the purpose of which was to come up with something interesting that would appeal to someone
Guys, no one
in
said objection
reality
yet.
TV.
How no one said objection?
Yeah, like he said reality TV with like the White House. Like what? What is he talking about?
I don't think they can object during the opening statements.
Oh, okay.
At least not for us in the U.S.
Oh.
And I believe when he said the Balloon Boy incident, I believe he's talking about an incident where a family tried to fake like a UFO kidnapping their son because they wanted to get on reality TV. I believe that's what he's talking about because that happened around 2008, 2009. If you don't know about it, I can show you an article for it later, BB. That one's also kind of interesting.
You'll have a lot of questions as you go through the evidence. Did this happen? Did that happen? But when you look at the facts, what really went on here? What really occurred here? And the evidence will show and be extremely clear that this whole thing was never really thought through and that bad judgment is all over this case. That may get you frustrated. That may even get you angry. But it doesn't mean in any way that the prosecution can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a crime was committed. And at the end of this case, we'll appeal to your better judgment and ask you to return a verdict if not guilty.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Selleck.
Oh my gosh. That was so long. Oh, jeez.
Yay, claps, but because it's over. Yay.
Yay, claps because it's over. There's also the it's not here. But I was gonna show like her sentencing, but we already know she got sentenced to 16 years. And she tried to reappeal in 2017. But then in 2019 she got wait, am I reading that wrong? Wait, so this first trial, the one that we were just watching, it ended in a hung jury. And then there was a second trial in 2017 where she got sentenced to 16 years and she sent an appeal in 2019. And it was rejected. And then there were no more appeals after that. and she will be in prison up until 2032, which is still a couple years from now.
And hung jury means that no one could decide whether she was guilty or not in this case. They were both like tied on each side, so they had to do another trial.
Yeah.
I don't like it's not obvious by what the lady said in the first part.
Yeah, it does seem it would be, you know, pretty obvious what like the evidence of her saying in like the recording that I'm 5,000% sure that I want to kill my husband and stuff like that. And like the ex-boyfriend being the witness, every single police in that station that was doing everything was a witness. Can you show her react? Okay, I can find the video of her sentencing if you guys want to see it.
Yes, I want to see her face when they say the verdict.
Okay, so yeah, the last two are verdict and sentencing. Here, I'll put you back on my head.
Thank you.
Okay, this is 7 minutes long. Oh, shoot.
Comfortable. I'm guessing maybe, is our jury reached a verdict? And Mr. Merlino, are you our foreperson? If you'll hand the verdict form, please, to Deputy Cascone. I'll have to check it to make sure it's in proper form, and then we'll have the clerk publish our verdict. I'll find that the verdict is in proper form and ask that our clerk publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the 15th Judicial Circuit, Criminal Division in and for Palm Beach County, Florida, in case number 2009-9771, State of Florida versus Dalia Dippolito. Verdict, we the jury find as follows. As to count 1, we find the defendant guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. If you find the defendant guilty, do you find that there is a firearm included in the solicitation? Yes. So say we all this 13th day of May, 2011 in West Palm Beach County, Florida. Signed jury foreperson, Joseph Merlino.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we do also have a procedure called polling the jury. I'm going to ask the clerk to ask each one of you individually, was the verdict as read your verdict? And if it was, you'll say yes, and if this was not your verdict, you'll say no. And instead of calling out by name, we'll just use a number, and we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Juror number 1, was the verdict as read your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 2, was the verdict as read your verdict?
Yes, it was.
Juror number 3, was the verdict as read your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Juror number 4, was the verdict as read your verdict?
Yes, it was.
Juror number 5, was the verdict as read your verdict?
Yes.
And juror number 6, was the verdict as read your verdict?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for your service, for your sacrifice, for giving up of your time, and attending to these very important disputes. I hope you have a better appreciation for what we do down here at the courthouse. And
You're guilty.
And that it is citizens, fellow citizens, our neighbors.
That poor child, I hope someone sane has custody. Hopefully not the mom, because apparently the mom was enabling her this entire time.
Yeah, excuse me. I don't know how that works because every state is different, but like, and this is the crazy thing, right? They have like custody battles between parents because apparently, if you're divorced, like you could still have custody of the child, like split basically between the two. And I know
Joint
because,
custody.
like, yeah, like joint custody and stuff like that. I know because I've heard about it, but also like, I've heard of families dealing with the same thing, like, so and they require like visitation and stuff like that. But I don't think they do that in this case. But that's just like one of those things that leads to more crime, you know, because the child gets into dangerous situations. So I hope that they don't have to deal with that.
Yeah. I hope the child's doing okay, at least. The child was truly innocent in this case.
Yeah, you'd be 12 now.
This is her sentence. This is an hour long. I don't want to go through an hour long video, honestly. TLDR, don't try to murder your husband, please.